We have with us Thomas Bezucha, who is the director of Uno de Nosotros, Let Him Go. Welcome to the Almeria Western Film Festival.
Thank you, thank you.
Virtually, at least.
Exactly.
I hope you can join us in the future, but thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Yeah.
It's probably been a long time since you finished the principal photography for this movie.
Yeah, we finished end of May 2019.
2019.
Yeah, so 2 years.
2.5 years, yeah, almost, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably weird to keep doing interviews about it when you probably moved on. You are now working on a different script or something.
Yeah, but always happy to talk to an audience. Yeah.
I'd like to know about the part of the process that happens before you have a green light and a closed cast, but after you read the novel. This is based on a novel. I guess you read the novel, you loved it, but then what happened? How did it all came together?
Sure, it's like all these things, it takes years. It's longer than you think, but then I had read the novel. I was a fan of Larry Watson's work, the author, and I had the opportunity to talk to him a couple years before I adapted it, and had some questions about, there were some things I wanted to change from the novel. Principally the time. The movie is set 10 years later than the novel, and because it felt, one of the things I wanted to explore was sort of that year of 1963 in which the movie, most of the action in the movie takes place, is the year of Kennedy's assassination. Mm-hmm. And that always, it feels like the pivot point for me in America in the 20th century, that there's a before and an after, and that George, the character, anyway, this is very involved, but the character of George feels like a part of before, and that there really isn't a place in the world for him in the after. I also really love the idea, it's not in the movie, but it was in the script and it was on the set, there's a photograph of President Kennedy in the courthouse when Lorna gets married. And I just love the idea of her getting married under a portrait of Kennedy, because it's going to be a sad ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I talked to Larry, and he was just extremely generous. And then I worked with a producer, Paula Mazur, on another movie called The Guernsey Literary Potato Peel Pie Society that Mike Newell directed. And after that, Paula was, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do. And I said, this book. And so she optioned the rights. I wrote the screenplay, and then it happened very quickly. Within a year, we had Diane Lane came on. I think Kevin Costner said yes in January, and we were on set end of February.
Oh, that's
so it happened very fast. Yeah, and it was Focus Features, which is part of Universal, were incredibly supportive, and their position was always, if you get Diane Lane and Kevin Costner, you have our blessing.
Tell me about the casting process. How does it work? Do you hire a casting director for this, or do you get your two main actors and then use a casting director for the secondary roles? How does it work, at least for this picture?
For the scale of movie I make, which are sort of all under $20 million, it's you have to attach talent. And I think we had, I can't remember, but the casting director we had was Avi Kaufman, who I had been wanting to work with for 20 years. There was a moment like when I became aware of her back when she cast Wonder Boys, Pleasantville, The Ice Storm, all of these seminal movies for me in independent film, and that they all, that the casts always create a tone that the movie makes the movie successful or not, in my mind. Anyway, I was thrilled to work with her. So I think Avi came on we hired Avi. I started working with Avi, and then somebody gave the script to Diane Lane, and her people got in touch with us, and then all of a sudden I was having lunch with Diane Lane. She's such a beautiful woman, and she's, in her early 50s. I would not have imagined she would want to play grandmother. But she really, the role meant a lot to her. The story meant a lot to her. We had a wonderful meeting, and then it was just finding George. And I think I may have always had Kevin in mind, and I can't believe he did it. Diane and I still talk, and it's like, do you think we'll get Kevin? Like, it's a miracle it happened.
Yeah, and the rest of the casting, because, okay, you have Kevin Costner and you have Diane Lane, which are terrific actors, and they have, in my opinion, one of the best performances in years. But also the secondary roles, they are amazing. We have all the wee boys, we have the mother of the wee boys, and all those actors. Is that part of the job of the casting director? Do you take part in that?
Absolutely. And Leslie Manville, who plays Blanche, is a British actress and the nicest woman you could ever hope to meet. And she was always, it's amazing. She was always Avi, our casting director's first choice for Blanche. And I knew of Leslie from Mike Leigh movies, and then of course Phantom Thread. And I think there was a period where there was a school of thought, not my school, but a school of thought that it needed to be an American actor to play Blanche. And so we went through a process where I think Avi and Paula and my position was find a better actor than Leslie Manville and we'll cast that person. And nobody was able to do that. And so we got Leslie in the end. And then Jeffrey Donovan was spectacular, and Boo Boo Stewart, who I was really not familiar with, who, he's like a Disney star. He's like a kid star. And I think he's great as Peter. And Kaylee Carter, who plays Lorna, is really great. So I know I got very lucky. Hire Avi Kaufman. She's the best in the business.
Okay, having a great cast with so many wonderful performances says a lot about the casting director, but it also says about the director himself. And I'd like to ask you about that. How do you approach directing actors? How much importance do you give to rehearsals? Do you read the script with them before going on set? You do meetings? Tell me a little bit about that part.
Yeah, you know what, I think it's, you have an initial, half of it is, it's so, I can't remember who said it, was it Woody Allen or somebody, that, 9/10 of a performance is just cast the right person. I often I have conversations with an actor before they're cast, and just if they have the right vibe, if we sort of connect, if I feel like if we see the story the same way. And I'm always curious what their thoughts are. And then once they're cast, I mean, I love actors, I really do. And they're sort of mysterious creatures. And I love, like, some people don't like to rehearse, some people love to rehearse, some people love to talk about their characters, some don't. And I sort of follow their lead and allow them whatever process allows them to do their best work. But we did do rehearsals. It felt really important to, I was surprised Kevin wanted to rehearse as much as he did, given he's a real movie actor, but he took it very seriously. And Diane is a movie star, but also an accomplished stage actress. So she was into the rehearsal process. For me, with them, a lot of it was finding, the unspoken gesture, the signs of intimacy between them that described a marriage. My favorite scenes in the movie are the ones where there's no talking. I love when she's tying his tie at the beginning. I have an idea of the scene, but I never ever sort of speak to an actor before the first take, because I'm always terrified that something I'll say will keep them from the surprise and inhibit them in some way. So I love to see what their instinct is, and then we start to craft something from that.
Okay, but the movie at the same time has some very well choreographed sequences, and some of them are quite simple. Like we have this conversation between Margaret and George when they stop in this scenario before they meet Peter Draxwolf.
Yeah.
And we have Diane, she's sitting down, Kevin is standing behind her, then he walks away, then she follows, then she goes away, and you are constantly like changing the accent and setting new perspectives for the sequence, which give them rhythm, but obviously you have to rehearse that.
Yes.
And if you over-rehearse, you might lose the spontaneity of the sequence.
Yeah.
So there's a perfect balance in the movie in that, which I think it was amazing.
Well, thank you. I do block it. I love blocking. That's the key, for sure. And we were definitely conscious of, especially in that scene, because there's also a level change that, she ends up, he's above her, and anyway, it keeps shifting, and being aware of wanting to change that. But you can do the blocking, you find the rhythm of the scene. You're right, it's sort of like the first act in the scene is up here, the second act is in the transition, and then they have a confrontation at the end. You can do all that without performance. It's just sort of finding, oh, this is what this piece of the scene is about, and then this is what this piece of the scene is about. And so we figure out the choreography without really performing, but just sort of understanding what the strategy is. I don't know if that explains it, but it was very complicated in the dinner scene at the Wee Boy house, and figuring out the choreography, because that scene goes on forever. and they enter the scene and then they leave the scene at the end. And it was figuring out, getting them to the table, who sits where, when they get up, when the new couple comes in. And then it was compounded by, this is just a technical thing, which is sort of interesting, was you cannot, in America, have a child on set where somebody is smoking.
Oh.
And so I had to figure out how to shoot all of Leslie, the stuff with Leslie at the end of the table with a cigarette without the kid. And then the kid goes up to bed and she's back to smoking. But anyway, it's that part.
Nobody knows about that.
Nobody knows about that, but it's really, you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that scene, it's a long scene, but it doesn't feel long at all, because the growing tension that you are building there.
Yeah, it was fun.
Another particular scene that caught my eye is the first campfire that they do with Peter Draxwolf.
Yeah.
The light in that scene, you can tell by the sky that the sun has gone down.
Yeah.
But it's not dark night.
Right.
But it's a long conversation, and there are different camera positions. Was this a visual effect, or how did you do that?
No, it's real.
I know you were running on a low budget.
It's real, and it was terrifying how little time we had to accomplish it. I think there are, and we rehearsed that scene. We rehearsed that scene in daylight because we knew we had no time. That we had really at most maybe 25 minutes or a half hour because the light, it's exactly what you're saying. The sun has gone down and it's that weird gloaming hour. Anyway, it's a half hour. Anyway, we rehearsed while the sun was up. So we figured out the choreography and everything. And then the second the sun went down, we had to, it was tricky. We had to wait long enough to, like, you wanted to be able to see like the firelight and get a sense of that ambience. Anyway, I think we only had three or four takes, but we definitely, it was just two cameras, but we knew we had the shot list, we knew what we needed to do, and we moved pretty quickly.
Yeah. Because I remember watching that scene in the cinema, and when I saw the light, I thought, okay, now it's gonna be darker and darker as the conversation moves on, but it's constant. It's like a very little variation, so it's an amazing work by the
Guy Godfrey, who shot the movie, is my hero. It was a great collaboration. I loved him.
One question about the casting that I cannot ask you is about Kevin Costner. I guess it's gotta be a lot of pressure directing Kevin Costner, especially in a Western, because he's directed two of the most influential Westerns of the last 40 years, Dances with Wolves and Open Range, and suddenly you are the director, you are the one giving him instructions. How was working with him? He's
first of all, he's an incredibly generous person. So he allowed me to make mistakes, which was very kind. But he also is, but it's like you have to sort of show up. And I think I think he had confidence in me because I wrote the screenplay, and that meant a lot to him. So I think I got a pass because of that. But then, I think maybe some of the stuff we were doing was maybe a little arty-farty for him, but he really believed in the picture, and he is, as much as he's an accomplished director, he is just, in his essence, a storyteller. And so that excitement sort of comes to everything, and it didn't seem to matter if I was directing or he just is excited to come and help tell a story. But he was very generous and gentle to me. So I'm grateful.
Will we be seeing a new Thomas Bezucha Western in the future?
I don't, you know what? I love the West. So I'm not going to say no. I definitely love the West.
It's hard to predict what your next movie is going to be because your filmography is very diverse.
I know. I think I would love to do. I don't know. I think I love kitchens. I just like movies that have long kitchen scenes. You can count on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thanks for choosing the film. Thank you. Take care.